Alright, welcome to recaps with Dom, EPT Monaco Day 2. So, just to quickly explain what this is going to be about, we're going to do a recap on my Day 2 of the 2K FPS high roller. Just played a couple hands there. Yeah, let's get right into it. There will be a couple of sims today where I just want to verify that what I did was alright. So yeah, just to summarize the first few events. I lost queens to ace king, then I won knights against ace queen. First interesting hand I played, where we actually have a decision, is where I opened from the cutoff, effectively I want to say. I was actually in the hijack, but I opened a bit more aggressively. I opened like a cutoff range because the table was quite passive. So with that, I had jack 6 suited in this hand, and I went with a big c-bet on 10-7-5. There's not much to say to that. It's a board where you want to be c-betting big and doing some checking, so that was okay. We had called, and then the turn was an offsuit 9. And the question here is, do we double barrel this or do we check? Well, I decided I would double barrel this, and the simulation sort of does the same thing with jack 6. So the first hand seemed easy to me. Get a quick fold, so that was good. Yeah, that was the first hand I have to show you guys. So for the rest of the tournament, there wasn't actually too much that was interesting. I lost one pot where I called down with trips on the monotone board, check calling 3 streets and losing 2 better trips, which is always unfortunate. The guy bet a third of the pot 3 times, so just call, can't do anything. Then I ended up reshoving ace 8 suited into pocket 9s, and that's me out in like 71st place. So then we were on to the main event. And main event, we played a couple interesting hands. So it's gonna be, this spot is apparently a hijack cutoff spot, and the board for this one was king queen 3 with the offsuit king, and we face a check, and there's like a situation where you should be betting bigger. It's interesting to note already that you should be checking some of your king queen combos. I didn't in game. I bet. They called. Turns a 10 of clubs, and what you will see here is, I'm pretty confident this is right, is that you're going to be checking those kind of holdings quite a bit. Like, either you bet them small or you check, so can't go overboard holding the king queen there. It's not that good of a hand. So I actually was very happy that I did find the check here in game. River is actually really boring. It's just a queen. I check and I throw in a big bet and they call, and yeah, we can just skip this, so just so we can get more hands in. I have more interesting things to show you than me making a full house on the river and betting. There was another one that I played. It was like a low jack small blind 3-bet pot. Again, like playing roughly 50 blinds. I'm gonna set this to 3-bet pot, low jack small blind. Gonna open the Explorer for this one. The board was king 10-4, and we face a small continuation bet, and I'm not sure whether theoretically this is even. So it's interesting. Actually, I think the board was king 10-3. Almost king 10-3, maybe. It shouldn't change too much, but let's be precise. So yeah, we're facing a small c-bet, and I wasn't sure if I was meant to. My bad. My apologies. The board is king 10-3 with a flush draw, wasn't rainbow. So otherwise, what I did makes a little bit less sense. We're facing a c-bet here, and we're pocket 8s with the 8 of the suit. Pocket 8s with the 8s of the pocket 8s with the 8 of the suits, and I make a somewhat thin call there with the 8s holding the backdoor flush draw. Again, you know, call, and yeah, the turns just offsuit 4. I presume that when I check, obviously we're checking again. This is quite easy. His hand is more interesting. He has ace jack offsuit, and I wonder if he's supposed to be betting that one. And then the river just breaks, and it's like a 6 or something. And there isn't really too much. He checks the river, and I don't have any reason to turn my hand into a bluff, and I check, and that was good. I can quickly check here. Is he supposed to bet his ace jack? No, he just checks it. I have absolutely no reason to do anything. Check as well. Sweet. Next hand was cutoff button spot for you guys, where it's a single raise pot, of course. The board was ace 10 7. My notes say there's a flush draw, so we're gonna look at this quickly. I had ace queen. I decide that I would want to bet large. Called. Then the turn was a king, bringing 2 flush draws. I decide that I would want to bet large again with my ace queen, which you can see here. There is even some shoving there, which is interesting. Like, if you don't block any of the flush draw cards, you just put it in. I like that a lot, frankly. It seemed a bit excessive to me to go quite that big, but I do enjoy that a lot. Called. The river, unfortunately, is one of the absolute worst cards in the deck. In some sort of sense, right? It's like, if you want to keep betting for value again, you're kind of screwed now with your ace queen. It just makes it like a very, very simple check, and I check. And what happened here was actually really interesting. He just bet like 10% of the pot. Okay, I called, and I lost to ace 10. So I somehow saved that bullet. Again, you know, okay. I don't know, sometimes you just take the presents, you gotta... But yeah, basically you should not be betting 10% pot there. I have another spot now. The next one, now we're like fairly short, and playing against a blind against blind pot of roughly like, I want to say like 30 big blinds we had around then. So I like show you roughly. So they limp and I ISO, and we're gonna take some sort of board that is fairly similar. It's like a board with like, it's like something like this is fairly accurate, yeah. I ISO'd Queen Jack O, and I just went with a big c-bet on this board, which I just wanted to quickly review if it makes sense with a lot of hands, and I did. They called, and then the turn was, I don't know, the turn was a blank of some sort. And it goes check check, and I river a queen, which I presume is just fine. Check check with the queen. Yeah, you don't double barrel the queen jack there. You have too much equity. You don't want to get shoved off. And I river the queen. They bet 1 big blind. Okay, I just raise him and he folds. So that was that. Yeah. So actually, we don't really need to look at this, to be honest. Otherwise, taking up too much time. We have more interesting hands to look at, to be honest. Next one. Well, the next one I have in my notes is from my next bullet, so I'll just quickly recap how I busted. I was fairly short, and I had a situation to squeeze gem preflop against a very loose player and another loose player calling. So that was I was down to like 20 big blinds, having lost the pot previously. Yeah, so like just like 20 big blinds. We'll just quickly look at like sort of what we had going on there. It was like a situation sort of like this, where it was like low jack open. But they were both like quite active players, so I kind of want to look at like hijack and like cutoff or something. And I dealt a pair of 5s, and I just squeeze jammed. Fully aware that this is quite loose, but the guy calling actually ended up calling with 9s, so I was out of the tournament. Yeah, no real problem there. So we're on to the next bullet, and we're playing. So I had to re-enter that because I had like things planned today, so I couldn't re-enter on 1B. I had to re-enter on 1A. So like we can now look at another spot that's fairly interesting. We're again 50 big blinds deep, perhaps a bit less at this point. I think it's like a 40 big blind cut-off button spot, I want to say. It was cut-off button. I decided to open big, which I sometimes do. So take these simulations with a grain of salt. Sometimes I like to raise big and like mix in limbs. So I don't have a simulation for this, but the situation basically was that it was a king jack 3 monotone board in cut-off button. And I was just kind of curious. It is a range check, which I'm sort of happy I found there. Yeah, I'm sort of happy I found that range check. They check as well. And yeah, so my notes are unfortunately a little bit incomplete for this one. That's quite embarrassing. The turn was a complete blank. I have that written down as a blank. Now I decide that I would go fairly big, and I think this is all reasonable because I did have the queen of clubs in this situation, so we do want to go betting, and betting on the large side seemed right to me. And then the river completes my flush, and again, okay, we'll look at the sim quickly, but I just decided to like go with the big c-bet sizing, which I like to use. They're like a nice chunky 80% bet, and we got called. That was the first time we had chips in the main for a little bit. I then got lucky and won a flip with queens against ace king, and now I had like 5 times starting stack. The knights sort of fizzled away with the exception of 2 more hands that I can show you for this recap. So the first one is again really bizarre, and we need to get a bit creative to even have a sim for this one. This was because the big blind player was on sit out, and Sam Grafton opened. And I don't know, he opened from the low jack, but he was not opening a low jack range. He was maybe opening a cutoff or even button range. I didn't know at the time. I'm in the small blind and I defend with king 4-0. Okay, for the sake of this analysis, I think we're just gonna have to assume that he either opened the cutoff or the button. And we were playing roughly 40 blinds effective. So I'm just gonna like look at a button and try to keep this as close together as possible. Yeah. So the board was 9-4 deuce. What was 9-4 deuce? And Sam's a good player, so he's gonna like he's c-bet big, which I just assume is just what he does. I have king 4. And I decided that this would be just a call. The turn's a 9. I don't know, it's 9 is I'm not leading too much here. He quickly checks back, which is okay. I don't know. River's a 10, right? And the 10 does connect with some of his bets, for sure. However, it doesn't connect with all of the bets, right? So, kind of curious to see if I should be leading on the river here, or if I should be checking. Be dealing with a little bit of lag here on hotel internet. See if this one works. Quickly, it's a reload. So yeah, anyway, my thinking on the river was that I should be block betting this quite often. We might be able to revisit this hand at a later time. Yeah. Technical difficulties with the review. Anyway, I decide to lead the river for a fairly small sizing, which can I get this one to load? We might have to review this one in a second. There was one more hand that I played that was also interesting. Let me just see if I can find it quickly. So that was the Sam Grafton hand. Then there was one more. Right, this hand, a very annoying one. It's a low jack small blind spot. Again, playing like 50 blinds effective. There's like one where I like might have made a mistake here. The board was Queen 8-2, rainbow. And so yeah, the check. I decide, yeah, there's a variety of things you need to do in these situations. I decide to go with a small c-bet here with my ace-4 suited is what I had. They call. It's nothing too surprising here so far. Just like the board sort of breaks out, and that's fairly interesting. Here again, my question was, do I double barrel my ace-x kind of holdings? And I think mainly you don't. I was okay with. The problem, however, is by the river. You get to the river with so many ace-x holdings. Oh, so like this simulation's done running for us, so we'll quickly see what happened here. It's a bit of an advanced recap. You have to go from one hand to the other this time. So anyway, so my king 4, you can see it's just a pure block bet. We're facing a raise, which luckily for us matches our sim fairly well. Face a raise here. Now the question does become, do we call this? And it's like sort of like a hand that is like sort of in the middle, and I don't know, it's a really strange spot that I don't want to waste too much time on, because as I said, there was a guy on sit out in the big blind and it was just like all over the place. Not really too much can be said here. I mean, I called in game, which, you know, Sam's line is like pretty interesting. We can look at a bit more. Yeah, Sam actually had the 9-5 suited, which he checked back. On the turn, which we can just go back in to see if how often he does that. Yeah, it's maybe supposed to check the flop, but it's like not even. It's a very loose open by Sam, you know. Hey, there was a guy on sit out. I'm not blaming him. You know, it's like, but like when he does it, he's supposed to bet small and he bet big. Right? You know, it happens. And I thought like the way this one played out, though, like there's not really any nines to check back, but you know, well played him. I guess this is all defensible. Yeah, just like for the last hand. The last hand is interesting because it is a bluff catcher spot on, you know, like the last one's interesting because it's a bluff catcher spot, and here we face like a half pot bet, which is a bit smaller than this simulation. Really interesting situation because I did hold ace 4, which, as you can see here, mixes according to theory. So when that happens, you know, it's a grim spot, and I'm happy that I was in the tank with ace 4. I thought a bit about it, and I was trying to calculate like all the value combos he had, which, you know, it's doable, I guess. You know, and then you count if you like your ace 4 removes any value combos. It sort of removes ace queen, which you could have, right? It doesn't remove any bluffs, really, so that's here and there. Yeah, you do have to call something, and the problem is that if you look at his range, just look at his whole range, then you can see that he has like 10-9 suited, Jack-10 suited, like around here. He's very heavy around here. You could also conceivably have something like this, like a king-10 or something, although I'm not sure how often he gets the river. Like I thought like in game he could have like king-10, king-jack suited as well. So I thought for half pot I should call. He had pocket 10s. Well played. You know, like c-bet is on the smaller end, but well played, well played. Yeah, this pot basically knocked me down to 92,000 chips, which is 3 times starting stack, and that's what I have for tomorrow. Yeah. So I get a lot of strange hands happening in the main event. A lot of hands that are really hard to do recaps on. Like basically, sometimes you have like 5-way pots, and you can't really run analysis on this because people behave very erratically and sims don't do it justice. that's fun. Anyway, that sums up the recap for today. For the next few days, hopefully I can deep run the main. I mean, I have 3 times starting stack. That's pretty good. And the hands will get more technical as we get deeper into the tournament. The average stack decreases. And yeah, that would be more interesting, hopefully. So again, next recap tomorrow as soon as I'm done with day 2 of the main event. Thanks for watching, guys. Like, subscribe, all that. See you next time. Bye-bye.